So in Washington, D.C., there is a rotunda that has statues for each of the 50 states. And there are 2 statues for every state. In the state of California, one of the statues is St. Junipero Serra, whose feast day we celebrate today. And for Hawaii, one of the statues is St. Damien of Molokai. And I know some of our listeners out here who are just stumbling upon relevant radio right now are thinking, wait a second, isn't that against separation of church and state? No, it's not. It's an historical fact. These were great people from those states that the citizens really loved and cherished, who did a tremendous amount of good for the people, and they are appropriately honored in our nation's capital. Today, Junipero Serra, he died in the year 1784. He came from a lovely place in the Mediterranean Sea known as Mallorca. Like, why would you want to move away from there? But he moved to Mexico, and he was a scholar, he was a philosopher, and later he was assigned to do evangelization in Upper California, Alta California. There was Upper and Lower California. Upper California now is one of the states of our country. And he moved on up there, and during his lifetime, he established 9 of the 21 missions in California. These are names very familiar to us today, like San Diego. No, he didn't found the San Diego Padres. That wasn't until the 60s that team started there. But Los Angeles, which is known as Nuestra Señora Reina de los Ángeles, Our Lady, Queen of the Angels. Monterey, that's the Mount of the King. No, he didn't found Pebble Beach, but it was right by Monterey. He founded San Francisco and San Rafael and Sacramento, California, named after the Blessed Sacrament. And it was really an amazing life that he lived, because it was against lots of odds, but he had reflected on the words of Jesus, which we have inscribed in bronze outside of our chapel here. Go out into the whole world and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Spirit, teaching them to observe all that I've commanded you, and lo, I'm with you until the end of the age. And he responded generously to that. It wasn't easy work. Well, you couldn't get in a car and just drive there. You couldn't take a plane. You couldn't take a helicopter. He had a bad leg. He hobbled around and had to learn new languages. It's amazing what these people did to spread the faith. I remember being in the church near Carmel by the Sea in September of 2016. We had just initiated our merger and acquisition with Immaculate Heart Radio. And I wanted to go see where he was buried, because he's a saint. He had just been canonized the year before. And there he is in this lovely mission church, Carmel by the Sea. He's buried there in the floor, and there's a tombstone there. I remember praying to him for this merger so that we could carry on the work of the evangelization that he and his friars had started. I wonder what he would think about Relevant Radio today, broadcasting on all those stations in California. I think he'd say, well, more power to you. Get the word out. All those people stuck in traffic jams in those big cities listening to Relevant Radio. From Silicon Valley to San Francisco to the Golden Gate Bridge to Eureka, California to Modesto and Bakersfield and San Diego and Los Angeles and all the places in between. And it gives us a chance to reflect on these last words of Jesus in the gospel today. Jesus answered him, "Follow me and let the dead bury their dead." Yeah, but that's my dad. He died. This is what's known as a hard saying. It's a hard saying. And it's a hard saying that Junipero Serra lived. He never went back to Mallorca. He did not bury his parents. Nor did Damien and Molokai bury his parents. Now, back then they didn't have jet transportation, but even today in jet transportation, there are missionaries in Africa. If their father dies, they just can't get the connection to get back in time for the funeral. I know for a fact, because I presided the funeral of the father of a priest of Opus Dei who had met Opus Dei at MIT in the 50s and 60s, and he was Nigerian. It was just physically impossible to get him back on time. I was able to preside at the funeral. I think, boy, it's right out of these words of the gospel. Let the dead bury their dead. Does that mean that we shouldn't have feelings and affection for our loved ones? We should. But ultimately, we need to put God first. Not everyone can accept that. I understand that. But for those who do and can accept it, God can do a tremendous amount of good through those people.